A new year has dawned upon us, and of course that means new units incoming for Global Grand Summoners. Ladies and gentlemen, you already know what time it is. It's time to talk about the best units to save for in 2022. I usually try to do these about every year just to kind of keep everybody up to date, to kind of give you guys a little bit of a forecast to understand exactly what's going to be coming in the next few months. Of course, stuff can be rushed or delayed based on the global devs. And let me just say, this year has a lot of very, very good units coming out, along with some new mechanics and some other stuff as well. And one of the craziest units GS has ever released will probably be coming to global sooner rather than later. But before we get into the video, real quick, I want to tell all you guys about the stuff that's been happening on the community tab. Is that we've been doing voting polls every single day, and we actually posted the last voting poll I think 2 or 3 days ago. And I just want to let you all know to please make sure you vote on those if you haven't voted already. That will be for a year-end video for the Grand Summoners in 2021, and that video will probably be happening some point this week, more than likely this week or next week, depends on how editing and everything goes. So yeah, if you haven't voted yet, hey, make sure you do it. By the way, if you want to, hey, like, subscribe, you know, helps your boy out, you know what I'm saying? As I was saying, I'm not really going to be doing like a top 10 or top 5. I just picked out some units that I saw really caught my eye. And by the way, we are going to have some runner-ups on this list, which I'll actually start with right now. And the number 1 runner-up on this list is actually going to be Mako. Now, the reason why Mako is not actually on the list is because she's not a new unit, but it's very likely we're going to get a Kill rerun at some point this year due to the fact that we still don't have their true weapons on global. Yes, Kill units do have a true weapon on JP, but on global, we don't have anything at the moment. So sooner or later, we should probably get a rerun of Kill, or they may completely skip it. Either way, if we do get a rerun, you all know how OP Mako is, so absolutely make sure that you can try to pick her up if you can during this year. Now moving on to the actual list. And the one that we're going to be starting off with first is probably the soonest to release, and that is the girl Priscilla. Ooh, Lord. This girl, let me tell you, got a lot of power to her. I'm talking about 100% crit rate up. Crit damage to the entire team based on the amount of fire allies in the party. So if you got 4 fire allies, that means 120% critical damage buff to your team. Not only just that, she does like a insane amounts of DPS. She's an amazing unit, pretty much makes mono fire nuking even crazier. If you got this girl and you got Fire Roy, sheesh, I'm telling you, you're gonna be going wild. Oh, by the way, Hal loves this girl. But there's really nothing else to say about this unit apart from that. She's just a really strong damage dealer. She's a fire nuker, but not by any means I would say required, but a really fun unit to mess around with. And only thing I'm gonna say is, if you guys know, the raids have been going crazy. Maybe some of you guys have started realizing a little bit more about the game or whatever, and you guys know how strong nuking comps are in the raid. So if you're trying to double nuke or trying to just nuke a boss for all of its HP, Priscilla may be one of the units that will actually be able to help you achieve that. And now moving on to the unit that will be coming out right after her, more than likely, will be Simon. Now, Simon is a menace, to say the least. Not only did he kill my waifu, I will never forgive him for that, he also killed any form of balance in GS because he adds the first new mechanic this year that we're probably going to see, which is the Phantom Bullet. As you can see here, these are Simon's stats, and Simon's able to increase his damage all the way up to 240%. This guy is a ramping damage dealer, and it also refreshes the duration of his buff. Granted, you only have it for 20 seconds, but if you can get this thing up all the way to 240, this guy's going to be hitting hard. And then with his true art, he's able to increase his own arts by 50 and reduce the enemy's dark and physical resistance by 30%. And then with the Phantom Bullet, you're able to deal 100,000% dark damage physical. You increase your own accuracy by 100% and ignore 100% of enemy's defense during Phantom Bullet. The only requirement that you need for a Phantom Bullet is that you need to be able to have enough arts to activate your true arts, and then once you do that, boom, you can activate the Phantom Bullet instead, and you deal the big damage. Also on top of this, the boy Simon also has tons of damage up passives, such as damage to human enemies, damage against enemies in break, and he also increases attack by 80% and autofills his own art gauge by 3 while he's not afflicted by status elements, because why not, right, Yamapi? But I will say, if you're gonna actually plan on using the boy Simon, I actually would highly recommend picking up his true weapon as well, just because it does give him a passive 50% attack up buff, and it gives him physical and dark damage up as well, which is very appreciated on him. And then following Simon, we're actually going to be going to the emo phase of Haruto, and we're going to be getting Dark Haruto. Now, Dark Haruto, this guy is kind of nuts. Simon is crazy, but Dark Haruto may be on a different level. Dark Haruto, very similar to Simon, is all about the deeps as well. He actually has a bleed mechanic, same as someone like Luan, reduces your damage resist based on the number of stacks you have of bleed, which if you can only have 3, of course, that means you can only have 9% damage resist down. But even with that being said, this boy has 100% crit rate against any enemy that has 3 stacks of bleed. He increases damage to enemies under 30% HP by 80%, and when near death, he increases art gauge by 1 per second. But not only just this, ladies and gentlemen, True Art's able to increase everybody's crit damage by 100%. And by the way, he has a Phantom Bullet. This man's Phantom Bullet can be activated 3 times per quest, and it reduces the enemy's dark resist by 50% for 60 seconds. 60 seconds. This is a whole minute of 50% dark resist down. That is dumb. That's stupid. If you're able to work this guy into different teams, he's going to be able to be an absolute menace just to help buff up your damage through the fact that he can apply a minute-long dark resist down. I've seen comps on JP that feature him and actually Juno in the same comp, and he's only there to buff up Juno's damage just due to the fact that that debuff lasts for an entire minute, and most quests can actually be completed during that. Of course, he can also be used in nuke compositions and everything else due to the fact that he has such good modifiers, and his slots are pretty solid. And he's a magic unit. I don't know what it is. They just love magic units, but I don't understand how he's a magic unit. He uses a blicky. He has a gun. Now, real quick, let's actually take a break from some of the Phantom Snipers. We're going to be bringing in one of the newest units that actually came out to JP, which is a new boss unit, which also has a new mechanic known as Liberation Mode, and that's going to be Emmy. Emmy should be coming around at some point during Race's Awakening, which we'll probably be getting that this year as well, because Emmy is the boss fight for it, and she's also the banner that comes out alongside it. Hopefully, she will be. Global dev team, please. But she's actually a character that can transform into a boss herself. So she starts out as just her regular self, and then she transforms into her liberation mode. And once you're in liberation mode, you become a new unit entirely almost. This is a lot different than something like Third Eye or Magia Drive, where you just get access to your true art. Like, no, this thing gives you a completely new kit and also boss skills. As you see here with her base skills, she's able to increase everybody's dark damage by 60%, and she's also able to reduce the enemy's magic resist by 10%. But that's kind of like whatever, right? It's like, I mean, this unit's kind of bland. But then you see that she enters liberation mode and she gets access to these bad boys. So her first special skill is able to inflict blind onto the enemy, 80% chance. Her second special skill will allow her to reduce the enemy's damage resist by 50%. Her third one will allow her to reduce the enemy's crit resist by 100%, which, by the way, means that you crit the boss. And then you have your mega skill as well, which has a 15-second cooldown, which is just straight damage. And then you have your special art, which is technically, I guess, your true art in liberation mode. And this will increase everybody's arts damage by 100% and will deal a massive 120,000% dark damage magic multiplier onto your enemies. And this ain't all the damage ups she has. She also has increased damage to humans and increased physical resistance and increased damage against blind enemies by 50%. So this girl pretty crazy, and she's, like I said before, one of the first characters to get the boss form mechanic in the game. Now heading back to the Phantom Sniper saga, we got the boy Volte coming in. Now Volte is a gunslinger, and you already know I love me some gunslingers. This man's gonna be a water human, and he's also kind of a nuker as well. He's able to reduce the enemy's magic resist by 10%, which is stackable with his skill. He's also able to increase your own skill CT recovery and equipment CT recovery with his art. And with his true art, he's able to ignore enemies' defenses by 100%, and you increase all allies' arts damage based on the number of water allies in your party. This is actually very similar to what Rudius has, but that's because Rudius' true art was modeled after this true art. Volte was the first to do it, and that's kind of the whole gimmick about him. If you like using Rudius, you probably will like using Volte. He has tons of deeps, and he also has a lot of damage up passives just built into him. And he has a very unique passive that, well, I say very unique, but he has a very situational passive, which will be absolutely vital for some people. He has Hellfire Resistance, which if you guys don't know what Hellfire is, this is the field mechanic that Ignis has. And you all know how annoying this can be, so with him having that resistant to it, that makes it a little bit more bearable. And since we're talking about Volte, why don't we talk about Volte LR? Volte LR is actually the other version of Volte, and he's an earth unit. And he also has a very big blicky, really big blicky. But this guy's kind of unique in the sense that he is actually a tank unit, which is wild to even think about. His first skill is able to increase his own arts by 20. If he's unafflicted by any stats elements, it increases by additional 20, so 40 art gauge in total. His art's able to increase his bullets by 1 up to however many phantom bullet activations are left, and then for 10 seconds you increase your attack by 50%. His true art's able to increase all allies' earth damage by 30%, which is stackable, and he redirects allies' damage taken to self and gains a barrier that negates 25,000 damage. And then he has the phantom bullet mechanic as well, and this phantom bullet mechanic will allow you to use a massive true art that is based on the number of phantom bullet stacks you have, or bullet stacks. So for example, if you have 6, you will times your true art by 6. So 6 times 38,000. I'm not even going to do the math. I just know that's a lot of damage. And you reset your bullet stacks back to 1, but then for 40 seconds, you increase your own physical resistance by 20%, and you gain a damage barrier that negates 25,000 damage to self. The thing is that his phantom bullet is very unique because he can actually activate his phantom bullet 6 times, but his Phantom Bullet gets taken away based on the number of stacks you have. Let's say you use 3 bullet stacks onto his Phantom Bullet. That means you lost 3 Phantom Bullets, so you only have 3 left. You see what I mean? His abilities, though, pretty solid too. Increasing his physical res by 20%, increases his defense when under a damage barrier, and when your own HP is above 50%, you increase your own attack. When it's below 50%, you increase your own damage resist by another 20%. So he has a lot of physical damage resist in his kit that makes him really solid to where he doesn't really need too many defense slots. Of course, more defense slots will help him tank better, but with all the physical resistance in his kit, if he's going up against a physical boss, you shouldn't have no problem with him. And now we are moving on to one of our final units, which I want to say that there's probably going to be some people saying, OP, where is Water Priscilla? And I felt like I already talked about so many nukers and stuff that talking about another one would just be kind of redundant at this point, but she is in the game. So I would say this is probably an honorable mention just because she's kind of like, okay, she's not too crazy. She's just decent, I guess. And now, moving on to the final unit of this year that I think all of you guys should save for no matter what. The other ones were the units that I just liked and I would hope that I could get maybe with some of the extra crystals that I'm going to be having. The majority of my stock is going to be invested into this unit, Emperor. Emperor will probably be coming around our 5th year anniversary more than likely, but Emperor may also get delayed for a little bit longer, or he may get rushed out a little bit quicker because he is an actual story unit. But this guy is insane. I'm telling you, I really can't tell you guys enough. Like, if you watch videos of him, if you just see gameplay of him, you see what he's doing for his team and everything else, he's dumb. There's no other way to put it. He's just broken. He's stupid. I don't know what they were on whenever they made this guy. They were just like, screw it, give him everything. And they did. So for one, he has 5-star slots in every single thing. 5-star magic, 5-star physical, and 5-star support. This man can increase his own art gauge by 50 if he's unafflicted by any stats elements. He increases all ally stats by 30% and decreases enemies' physical resistance by 20%. And then with his true art, he does 67,000% light damage physical. You sacrifice 10% of your own max HP. But then for 15 seconds, you increase all allies' art gauge by 6. He is type B Archon, however. Change your position of Emperor swords, and this depends on the position of Skylight, Granvius, and Darkbringer. As you can see in his artwork, he has 3 swords, and based on the position that you actually put him in your team comps will determine what sword he actually uses for his true art. And I know it says it rotates the position of it, but that's only if he's actually in the last slot of your team. If he's in the first slot, he uses Skylight. If he's in the second slot, he uses Granvius. If he's in the third slot, he uses Darkbringer. Each one of these applies a damage buff to himself. As you see here, he's able to increase his own damage to humans by 150% if he's in the second slot because he'll be using Granvius. Same thing with Skylight, you'll be increasing your damage to gods, and then with Darkbringer, you'll be increasing your damage to demons. So you definitely want to make sure that he's in the right position whenever you are actually fighting different things and taking him up against different content to make sure he's hitting as hard as possible. Not only does it just increase his damage, it also gives his allies something else in return. So he will either increase your accuracy, increase your damage resistance, or increase your attack depending on which sword he uses. Now, he will switch swords if he's in the final slot of the team. So let's say if he's in the very last slot, the rightmost slot on screen, that's whenever his swords will actually rotate. However, if he's in any other slot, they will not rotate. And with him being this way, I think we're starting to see the fact that we're seeing this new crazy meta of not just only the Blood Knights get to have these over-the-top mechanics, other units are now finally starting to catch up and get these over-the-top mechanics as well. It's probably one of the closest mechanics that GS has actually introduced into the game next to like the liberation forms of boss mechanics. I really like this. And let me just say, Emperor is not a letdown at all. Only thing I'm gonna say is Emperor is more broken than anyone could have even imagined. The amount of stuff this guy can do is insane. And just, he's ridiculous. Literally, whenever this guy comes out to global, I'm telling you, you guys that are raiders are gonna be loving him more than likely. You guys are gonna be taking this dude against everything, and I will not be surprised. I think this is probably the must-have unit of the year that if you get this guy, you practically win the game again. Like, you're literally playing on peaceful at this point. No mobs, no nothing will be able to stand in your way if you get Emperor. And you already have a really solid account too to support him. He's just gonna be crazy. And he'll probably be the #1 reroll target for a lot of people when Emperor actually releases, because like I said, this guy's just cracked out of his fucking mind. That is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen, for this year's Who to Save For in 2022. We'll see how long it takes them to actually get through this entire list and see how many of these Phantom Snipers and story units actually release over the course of the next year. We may get all of them this year, we may not. We'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be a wild ride, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to make sure you're up to date with everything, hey man, you already know what to do. Subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff, so you can keep up to date with everything to do about GS. But that's gonna be it for this one, man. Thank you all again for coming out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more. Tell me down below who you're gonna be saving for this year. And last but not least, don't forget to drink water.